Today's openings begin with Ravenscroft Imperial Gingerbread Stout from Devil May Care Brewing in Winnipeg. This is part of their small batch series. And as such, there's no tasting notes or anything on the can, just the description from the name. So let's go in and see what it is. Very stouty kind of roasty stuff on there, malty, nice and all that kind of stuff, with just a little bit of gingerbreadiness, not too much. Cool. But that aside, let's check what's actually in the mail. This one doesn't have any customs notes on it, so I have no idea what's going on. That seems to be the theme lately, is they're using local reshippers, so there's never customs information on the outside anymore. This looks like some chunks of aluminum and some hardware. 110 volt, 400 watt PTC heating plate, BGA soldering ball, split aluminum, LED remover, welding station. Okay, so it's either a 400 watt 110 volt or a 300 watt 220 volt demolition board. Let's get a little bit closer on this. The hardware, that just seems to be standoffs or feet to stand it on. Okay. And I don't know whether you can see it or not, but it's got a dent in it, and I can feel that too. That's not performance. But the point of this is just to make a soldering hot plate. I don't do an awful lot of... Oh wow, that hardware is magnetic. Look at that. That's unexpected. Oh, I see. The feet are magnetic. At least one of the magnets has shattered, and there's little shards of it everywhere. The rest of them seem to be intact. Okay. Yeah, there we go. There's one of the magnetic feet there. So those will just screw on like that so that it's spaced off of the workbench and not contacting and melting that down. Other than that, it is, I guess, just what it says on the label. Let's take a look at the description on the selling page, wherever I bought this from, and then maybe come back and play with it a little bit. 400 watt, 110 volt PTC heating plate chip, BGA soldering ball, split aluminum, LED remover, welding station, 300 watt, 220 volt demolition board tool. Demolition board tool. Weird. So they have several different varieties here. I got the 110 volt, 400 watt one for $8.76 Canadian, although it was about $7 back when I bought it. It looks like they don't want to sell it to Canadians right now. The description, basically that same title again, can be used for disassembling LED lamp beads and FPC boards, etc., etc. So my plan is to use it when I'm soldering or desoldering or repairing those anything that's got those aluminum core circuit boards, because they can be a real bear to get enough heat into the area that you need to actually desolder a failed LED or failed resistor or something like that. All right, so I've got this connected up to just a power cord. Let's plug it into my kilowatt-like meter here and see what happens. So it looks like it is drawing 350, 330, a bunch of wattage anyway. 2.1, a little over 2 amps, and it's dropping because PTC, and as it heats up, it self-regulates, so that's not a surprise. I can definitely feel it warming up. Let's see what the thermal camera has to say. Okay, there we go. So it looks like the hot spot is at about 210, 211 Celsius, and it's still warming up just a little bit. It's 214. Okay, so that's not quite hot enough to melt solder, so you're not going to reflow on it. But what it will do is allow you to heat up those aluminum cord circuit boards that have LEDs and stuff on them, so that then you can get an iron in and add the extra couple 100 degrees to get it to melt properly. That's nice. I think that will be good. Though I'm probably going to want to build some kind of an enclosure for it, because that's just kind of janky just hanging out there. I don't really like that. And now I can't touch it for a while until it cools down. I guess I'll just have to find something to do while I wait. All right, that's done. Let's check the next thing in here. It says 2 pieces something something yellow, 2 pieces something something blue. This is, of course, something mysterious from my P.O. box, so I have no idea. But it appears that I was sent 6 push buttons, 2 yellow, 2 red, and 2 blue. Momentary single pole push button switches. Switches are always a useful thing to have around, and having an assortment of types and sizes and colors is always handy. Thank you to my anonymous donor. So the search that finds these things seems to be PBS33B push button. I'll sort the link price plus shipping lowest first for you. Well, if you look around for auctions, you might be able to find them cheaper, and I'm going to guess that my anonymous benefactor did exactly that. Found them cheap at auction and sent them to me. At least I hope so. I don't want people breaking the bank sending me random bits of electronics that I may eventually get around to using. But yeah, it is cool just to see the variety of stuff that's out there that hasn't occurred to me to order. But I just clicked on one of the listings at random, and apparently these are a 3 amp 125 volt or 1 amp at 250 volt AC. It claims it can handle up to 500 volts DC. These things are tiny. There's no way I would trust them with that, but for I think 5 volts, 12 volts, even 24 volts DC in a project, something like that, microcontroller, even model railroad, any of that kind of stuff, absolutely, these would be just the perfect thing. Well, that was fun. Next thing in, again, doesn't seem to have any customs light. Oh, there is something on the back of here. It says 12 volt or 24 volt COB LED strip. All right, I can definitely get behind that. Let's see what kind of a light strip I ordered. A well-packaged one, that's for sure. That's good. Well, reasonably well-packaged. Lots of bubble pack anyways. And, oh, wow. That is a really wide LED strip. Wowzers. So it said on the outside that it was either 12 volts or 24 volts. So I'm going to have to assume that's what it is. But yeah, wow, that is wide. That is like 3 centimeters wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of LEDs in each one. Oh, and it says right there that they're 12 volts. Okay. Looks like you can cut them every, what's that? That's about 3 centimeters as well, isn't it? So let's see how much I paid for these things. And of course, then we will light them up, because why wouldn't we light them up? 12 volt, 24 volt COB LED strip light, 1, 2, 5 rows, super bright, 320, 600, 1600 LEDs per meter, flexible tape, high density linear lights, 3000 or 4000 or 6500 Kelvin. So the one that I got is the 5 rows 1600 LED 2-pin in natural white. It could get, which is, I guess, 4000 Kelvin. I got 2 meters of the 12 volt strip. And I got these purely because I have never seen humongo LED strips like this before, and I just had to have one to play with. Not too much more to say about them down here. I could have got 24 volts. I could have got longer, up to 5 meters, and the different color temperatures. They're not waterproof, which is just fine. 1600 LEDs per meter, though. Wow. So listing, they also had just the single strip that is the very common one that we're all used to. They had 2 rows, 600 LEDs per meter, and then this big 30 millimeter beast. I think I am going to use my bigger homemade power supply, just because I don't know how much current this thing is going to take, and I suspect it might be a fair bit. So we'll just connect that onto the binding post here and light it up and see what happens. We're set to 12 volts. Brace yourselves. Whoa, that's bright. So that 2 meters is drawing 3.3 amps. Wow. And you can see that my camera is stopping the lens down so that it's not swamping it. But yeah, that is really, really bright right in my face. And the next thing is another thing from my P.O. box. So no, there's no information on the outside of it, so it is, oh, it's more of those little terminal blocks. These are more of the same ones that I got last time. They are not the 0.1 inch version that are common that fit onto breadboards and whatnot. These are, I think, 3mm, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they are about 3mm pitch. So these are apparently the metric standard rather than the imperial standard. And here's the search that'll find them. Screw terminal 3.5mm 2-pin. Looks like right now you can get 10 of them for $1.35. The link below, of course, will be price plus shipping lowest. Knock yourself out if this is something that you have a use for. And now the last thing in, which is, as always, the largest thing. This is something that I ordered, but it doesn't say what it is on there, so let's go. There's a bunch of stuff in there. 3 different packages. Okay. This first one looks like an LED strip. I've seen this packaging many times before. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. It looks like a COB type LED strip with a USB connector and a power switch. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. Oh. It's a touch switch. Oh, that's kind of cool. Now it looks like probably about 5 meters on that spool, so that is neat to add to the collection. I don't have one that's got a touch switch on it. I think I do have some of the COB type strip, but I don't think I have a 5-volt one. That's cool. Let's go find that one and then we'll look at these other things. LED COB strip touch dimmer. Oh, it's got a dimmer. Okay. Flexible diode tape 5-volt USB linear indoor lighting. Lamp room DIY, TV, mirror, backlight, wall decor, whatever. I got the 5-meter long one. Which color temperature did I get? I think I got natural white. Yeah, that's the one that I got. Right now it's going for $13.51, but when I bought it, it was about $9.50. So things have changed significantly. Then again, I bought it back in January, which is why I forgot what it was when I opened it. What do we say about it down here? 8 millimeters wide, 320 LEDs per millimeter, 100 lumens per watt. Sure. IP20, so not especially waterproof. 5 volts. Sure. Other than that, all standard stuff for LED strips. All right. Although that touch dimmer is interesting. That's not something that I've played with before, so that might be handy to have. Let's see what this is. Something in a pouch. I suppose I could read it, but let's just look. Oh, that's like a belt pouch thing. Okay. So what do we got over here? Oh, hey. This is a set of insulated screwdrivers. Got 2 interchangeable handles. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 different screwdriver bits. Looks like we got 3 Phillips bits, 3 straight blade bits, and 2 Torx bits, specifically T15 and T20. And these are all rated at a claimed 500 volts insulation. Now, I don't do an awful lot of high voltage stuff. I'm certainly not certified for it, but I have been known to do a little bit of wiring around the house, as I am allowed to do in my jurisdiction because I'm a homeowner and I can work on my own stuff. I can't work for anybody else. And now that I'm retired, I can't rely on my work certifications for that, but that's kind of neat. Oh, wow. This little spring ejector underneath there. That's kind of cool. So these, as I said, claim to be good for 500 volts. So yeah, when I'm doing a little bit of electrical work around the house, I can do it much more safely than I have been doing, which means I can retire my tape-wrapped screwdrivers and return them to just normal screwdriver duty. Probably shouldn't do that, but sometimes you just do what you do, right? Let's see what these things cost me. Normally, they are quite expensive. I'm hoping that I paid a reasonable price for these. Let's find out. Insulated electrician screwdriver, high hardness combo, household magnetic crossword shaped plum blossom hexagonal screwdriver. What the hell is that? Anyway, currently they're selling for $19.19. They were $13.45 when I bought them back in January. Still, I think $20 is not a bad price for these. Again, I wouldn't use them professionally. I wouldn't trust that they are certified to the 500 volts that they claim. But certainly for me around the house working on 110 volts, I think they are perfectly fine. And they're certainly better than what I was doing before. And the last thing in is this little package here. 50 pieces paint filter, 100 microns. Again, the rest of this package came back in January, came from January, so I'm assuming this is something else that I ordered back then. Just like the box said, this is paint strainers. These are intended for usually automotive paint, just when you're, or any paint that you're spraying through a gun to filter out any chunks or thick spots or whatever. The reason that I bought them, though, is for filtering the 3D printing resin when I'm putting it back into the jug, when I'm draining the vat out and cleaning the machine out after a print, or after a printing session. These things are ridiculously expensive at any of the paint stores and hardware stores locally. I seem to remember buying like a 5-pack of them for $5 or $6 or something. So obviously I went to AliExpress, and I'm gonna guess these were a hell of a lot cheaper. And my 19 centimeter paint filter paper, 100 microns, car paint spray, mesh paper filter, funnel strainer, disposable conical straining funnel. Right, I got 50 of them. Currently they're selling for $7.39. Back when I bought them, I paid $5.30 for that pack of 50. So yeah, prices are going up all over the place. I also don't remember paying, no, I didn't pay the $10 because I bought 3 things at once, and AliExpress, when you combine the 3 items into a shipment, they will make it free shipping. Don't think there's much else to say down here. It's paper and nylon, it's white, it's 100 micron, like it said, 10 by 19 centimeters, sure. And remember that price? Well, here's what it would cost me at the local hardware store. For a 4-pack, more than I paid for the 50-pack. That's just wild. If it was at least close, I would have bought them locally. And I did buy 1 4-pack locally, but yeah, that's just highway robbery. Admittedly, these are probably much cheaper quality, but for the amount that I use them, they'll be fine. And there is today's Mailbag Monday haul. Quite the variety. Lots of good stuff today. I'm especially amused or interested or amazed by this massive LED strip. And I think I am going to add it into the above bench lighting here. As I said, some of those strips up there are really old, cheap strips, and a few of them are getting a little bit flickery. I hope you can't see them because it's kind of been over here in the corner here, but I think I may replace a couple of those strips with this. There's 2 meters of it, so that should be fine. That is cool. I guess also on the LED strip theme, there's also this one with the touch switch on it, and it is a touch dimmer. You just push and hold and it dims down. You re-push and hold and it dims back up. So that's cool. And those are both natural white, which is kind of the ones that I like to use for my filming lights. May not be the best option, but the camera auto white balances on it anyway, so hopefully it's not a big hairy deal. I was sent more of these little terminals and this little assortment of push buttons by anonymous donors to my P.O. box. Thank you very much for that stuff. This little PTC hot plate thing, it arrived dented, which is not ideal, but it still works and it will still do the job that I expected of it. And that is, if I'm soldering onto these, aluminum backed PCBs, then it's nice to preheat the board so that you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time trying to dump heat into it with your soldering iron on the pad just to get the thing to melt. If you preheat it to a couple hundred degrees, which is still, below the soldering temperature, then you can get them to solder a lot easier without having to be too abusive with your iron. It's especially nice if you're working on one that's got components on it. Actually, yeah, this one here, you see when I was soldering onto it, I had to spend all kinds of time on those 2 pads to get my wire on there. So hopefully with this, I won't have to do that anymore. What else have we got? These paint strainers, which, you know, if I did spray painting, they would be handy, but really what I got them for, like I said, is just for filtering out the chunky bits in my 3D printing resin where I'm pouring it out of the vat back into the bottles for reuse later. And these insulated screwdrivers, I think they will come in handy. Even if they protect me from my own stupidity once, it will be well worth the, what did I pay for them? Less than 20 bucks that I paid for them, which is a stupidly cheap deal for insulated screwdrivers. And again, I'm not going to trust them to 500 volts. I'm not going to be, cavalier with them or anything, but anything you can do to protect yourself a little bit from your own stupidity, why not? Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube channel members for helping fund this madness. Thanks, as always, to the anonymous donors who send random bits of electronics in for me to play with and add to my accumulation and work into projects in the future at some time. I do appreciate it. And, of course, thanks to viewers like you for showing up all the time and liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all those YouTube things, and just watching. Appreciate it. Talk to you later.